A kata is something you practice, not something you watch. Read the lesson, write the code yourself, then review what you wrote. This video is the reference you come back to afterwards. A model can produce this code in seconds, and the reason to write it by hand is to keep the judgment that tells you whether the code is any good. A component is a function that returns a piece of user interface. Props are the arguments you pass it. Those two ideas are most of what you need to split an interface into parts you can build and change independently. The lesson covers how props flow from a parent into a child, why the children prop is treated differently from the rest, and what composition buys you once the pieces are small. In React 19, function components are the standard. A component is simply a JavaScript function that returns JSX, which is a syntax extension that looks similar to HTML. By using components, you can create custom elements that encapsulate both structure and behavior. For instance, the button component might include both its appearance and logic to handle clicks. This encapsulation helps keep your code organized, allowing you to focus on individual parts of the UI without getting overwhelmed by the entire application. Props, short for properties, are how you pass data from parent components to child components in React. They work much like function arguments, allowing you to customize a component's behavior or appearance based on the data passed in. For example, you might have a greeting component that takes a name as a prop and displays a personalized message. Props enable dynamic and flexible components, providing a way to control how components render based on external data. Always remember, props are read-only, meaning you cannot modify them within the child component. They maintain a one-way data flow, ensuring predictability in your application. Destructuring props in the function parameters is a common pattern in modern React. It simplifies your code by extracting values directly within the parameter list. Instead of accessing each property with the dot notation, you can directly use the property names. This makes the code cleaner and more readable. For example, if your component receives a name and age, destructuring allows you to write them directly in the function signature. This approach reduces boilerplate code and helps focus on the component's logic. The children prop is unique in React, allowing you to pass elements between the opening and closing tags of a component. It is fundamental to composition, enabling you to nest components and pass multiple elements as children. This makes it easier to build flexible layouts. For instance, a card component can wrap around any content, making it reusable for different purposes. The children prop acts as a placeholder for whatever content you want to display within the component. This flexibility is a key feature of React, allowing you to compose complex UIs from simpler building blocks. The welcome card on screen is rendered by a component that knows nothing about what is inside it. 2 paragraphs and a button were written between its opening and closing tags, and all 3 arrive together as the children prop. The card supplies the border, the padding, and the title, then renders whatever it was handed. Nothing about that button is written into the card, which is why the same card can hold a form on the next page. Children is one prop, whether you pass one element or several. Composition means building a larger component out of smaller ones rather than writing one long function. The user profile below is the example. It renders an avatar, a block of user information, and a list of skills, and its own body is 4 lines long because each of those is a component of its own. The code underneath it shows the whole thing. Every piece can be read, tested, and changed on its own, and the profile is where they are arranged. How far to take this is a matter of judgment. Splitting a component that only ever appears in one place buys you very little, and you can end up chasing a prop through 4 files to find where it is used. Components are pieces of user interface defined as functions that return JSX. Props carry data from a parent to a child in one direction only. Destructuring them in the parameter list puts the component's inputs in its signature, where they are easy to read. The children prop is what makes a wrapper component possible because it lets the parent decide the contents. Props are read only, so a component never writes to the ones it was given. If a child needs to change something, the parent owns that value and passes down a function to change it. This variant demonstrates a common mistake when using components. Notice the function named greeting with a lowercase g. In React, lowercase names are treated as standard HTML elements. Here, the greeting function is intended to be a React component. But because it is lowercase, React attempts to render it as a native HTML element. This results in the function not being called at all. In the app component, the greeting tag is used, but React renders it as is without invoking the function. Check the console to see a warning about an unknown element. This is a reminder to always capitalize component names to ensure React treats them as custom components. In this variant, the greeting function is correctly capitalized as greeting. With this change, React recognizes it as a custom component. The app component now successfully renders the greeting component with the name prop. You can see the rendered output displaying personalized greetings for Ada and Grace. This example shows the importance of naming conventions in React. By capitalizing component names, you ensure that React treats them as intended, allowing your components to function correctly. This variant showcases different patterns for using props in React components. At the top, you see imports for use state and React node, which are used for state management and typing the children prop respectively. The greeting component now takes both name and age props, providing a more detailed greeting. Below, the card component uses the children prop to display any nested content between its tags. The badge component demonstrates styling with props, as each badge's label is passed as a prop. In the app component, state is managed with user state to dynamically update the name. By entering a name in the input field, you can see real-time updates in the greeting component within the dynamic card. This example highlights how props and state work together to create interactive components and how composition can encapsulate different elements to build a cohesive user interface. The one idea worth keeping is that a component is a function of its props. Give it the same props and it renders the same thing, which is what makes a component you can reason about on its own. Capitalize the name, so React calls it, keep the props read-only, and let children carry whatever the parent wants inside. The kata is the part that matters. Open the lesson, write the code yourself, then read back what you wrote and judge it. The link is in the description, and that practice is what keeps the skill yours.